Daily. It's a battle. Who will the jury believe? The retired optometrist who says his life was changed by an accident on a Utah ski slope?
Did you think it was cool to collide with a celebrity?
Absolutely not. That is not who I am, no.
Or will it be celebrity actress and entrepreneur Gwyneth Paltrow?
Mr. Sanderson categorically hit me on that ski slope, and that is the truth.
Will the army of attorneys be able to prove what happened on the hill? Or is this just a classic case of he said, she said? Our own legal analysts weigh in on the contradictory testimony straight ahead. Law and Crime Daily, covering court cases from coast to coast.
And welcome everybody to Law and Crime Daily. I'm Jesse Weber. We're bringing you some of the biggest moments from the Utah civil trial involving A-lister Gwyneth Paltrow as she faces accusations that she slammed into a man on a ski slope several years ago. Terry Sanderson, a retired eye doctor who's now in his 70s, testified Monday about how a collision with Gwyneth Paltrow in 2016 impacted his life. Now, days before, on Friday, Sanderson's attorney called Gwyneth Paltrow herself to the stand to get her account of what happened. Sanderson and Paltrow were going down the same ski run at Deer Valley Resort when one hit the other, sending both of them to the ground. What's up for debate right now is who ran into whom. Sanderson claims that Paltrow slammed into him from behind, leaving him with several broken ribs and an apparent brain injury. Meantime, Paltrow says she felt someone hit her in the back. Sanderson is looking for at least $300,000 in compensation. His lawyers allege that the case is actually worth millions. Paltrow countersued for just $1 plus attorney's fees. One of Sanderson's lawyers went over testimony that Paltrow had given in previous depositions, confirming some key details.
You're going down relatively slowly when all of a sudden you heard a strange rustling noise behind you.
Yes.
Okay. And you felt like a rush of air in a strange way.
Yes.
Okay. And two skis slid in between my skis.
That's correct.
And all of a sudden, there was a body from the whole front of a body pressing into my back.
That's right.
Okay. Like, we'll talk about this in a minute. And there was a man behind me pressing into me. How did you know it was a man?
Because he was making some strange noises that sounded male, and he was large. So I assumed it was a male.
Okay, he was large?
I felt all my back pressing.
Okay. All right, there was a man pressing behind me, pressing into me. Mm-hmm. I was extremely upset.
Well, I was confused at first, and I didn't know exactly what was happening. It's a very strange thing to happen on a ski slope. And
I agree.
I froze, and I would say I got very upset a couple seconds later.
Okay. And you're not saying to the jury that this was in any way, shape, or form a sexual assault?
I am not saying that. Okay. I'm just saying what went through my mind for a split second when it was happening.
All right. So you're down on the ground, and then you started yelling at him.
I don't remember if I started yelling at him while I was on the ground. I remember pushing away because I was very upset, and it was still very strange to me what had happened. And I pushed down the hill, and I turned around, and I yelled at him.
Okay. Did you scream before you went down?
I don't think so.
Okay. So if others heard a scream, you wouldn't, that wasn't you?
No, I froze. When he slid between my skis, I absolutely froze. And I don't remember yelling or screaming until I was very angry at what had happened.
Okay. And so you guys are on the ground, and then you said to him, I think you don't know if you were up or if you were still on the ground, but he was still on the ground, right?
Yes.
When you said, "What are you doing?"
Yes.
Okay. Like, why did you do that?
Yes.
And he said, "I think you skied into me."
Yes.
And that's when you were furious and said, "You skied directly into my effing back at the top of your lungs."
Yes, I did.
Okay.
I apologize for my bad language.
Joined right now by my co-host, former trial attorney Terry Austin, defense attorney Brian Buckmeyer. Brian, I'll start with you. It's a he said, she said. So a major question is, did you find Paltrow credible?
Jesse, I think at the end of the day, I did, but I'm not sure it's based on her testimony, but more so on the lack of the attorney getting those hard-hitting facts out of her. Typically, when you are the plaintiff and you have the opposing party on the stand, you're going to get some hard-hitting questions. You're going to challenge their credibility. You're going to challenge their recollection of what happened. But this seemed like two friends going over what happened. Also, when I saw the attorney being a woman questioning Gwyneth Paltrow, a lot of us as attorneys optically think, okay, if it's a smaller female person you're going to cross-examine or question, you get another woman, because optically it looks bad when a man is yelling at her. I didn't see that. I thought she had the ability to, but she didn't. So she's credible because of maybe lack of questioning.
Talking about raising your voice, so Paltrow admits to getting angry, Terry. You think that the jury's going to hold that against her?
You know, I think her explanation was really, really good, and I think the jury won't hold it against her. It makes sense. She's on a ski slope. She feels someone getting behind her. She's probably thinking it might have been an assault or a sexual assault. Now, she claims, obviously, that was not what was happening. But at first, she thought that was what happened. And so because of that, she's yelling at him and she cursed, and she apologized very well on the stand. I think that was very credible. She felt as though, look, I probably shouldn't have cursed, but because of the shock of it all, that's why I reacted the way I did. And so I think the jury will understand that she didn't stop to help at that point because she's still in shock.
Well, more to talk about when it comes to this case. Still ahead on Law&Crime Daily. Highlights from the Gwyneth Paltrow skiing lawsuit continue. A lot more to cover.
Were you knocked out?
I was not knocked out, no.
Do you have memory loss of the event?
I do not. I mean, it was a long time ago, but...
That's fair.
And we're taking you back to a Utah courtroom where both the plaintiff and defendant in this case had a chance to testify. Welcome back, everybody. So our coverage of this civil trial involving actress Gwyneth Paltrow rolls on now. Paltrow took the stand on Friday. She's the defendant in a lawsuit filed by Terry Sanderson, accusing her of slamming into him on a Utah ski slope, causing serious and permanent injuries. Now, Paltrow, as we mentioned, filed a countersuit saying that Sanderson has it all backwards and that actually he hit her. After some back and forth about the impact the accident had on Paltrow's day, her own attorney brought up some misconceptions that people might have. Take a listen.
Is it true that you feel it's unfair that Mr. Sanderson has brought this case against you?
I do.
Okay. And he has deterred you from enjoying the rest of what was a very expensive vacation?
Well, I lost half a day of skiing.
Uh-huh.
Yes.
Right. Okay. And I think that's what your counsel has argued as well, that you you had a full day pass, but you can only ski a half a day.
Yes, I went back down after lunch.
Okay, right. And that's when you had lunch and you got a massage?
Yes.
Okay. Didn't get your knee checked out, didn't have any kind of medical attention?
No, it didn't feel acute in any way. It felt just like I had overstretched my knee and I had sustained a blow, but it didn't feel like it needed medical attention.
Okay.
There's an implication that at the time of this collision you were distracted. Were you distracted?
No.
Were you paying attention to where you were skiing?
I was.
Was there anyone in front of you?
There was not.
Do you feel some empathy for Mr. Sanderson and his declining brain?
You know, I really do. I feel very sorry for him. It seems like he's had a very difficult life, but I did not cause the accident, so I cannot be at fault for anything that subsequently happened to him.
So Brian, Paltrow was talked about, and she asked about distractions. Even Sanderson brought up that he saw two signs that as he skied. How important is it whether or not either one of them were distracted or reckless as they skied?
Jesse, this whole case is about being distracted or being reckless, because when it comes to sports, there is an assumption of risk. Everyone knows this. I mean, I played college soccer. I think I've got, 3 fractures break and bruise ribs. I wasn't able to sue any of the people who did that to me because a part of playing the sport means you get injured. However, if you're skiing and you're distracted or you're doing something that goes beyond what is the normal course of that sport, then you can be considered liable to the damage or the harm that you do to other people. So it cannot just be that they were skiing and doing their regular skiing, so to speak. There has to be something more. So I thought it was weird for Sanderson to bring up the signs because that shows that he might have been distracted. But I think Paltrow has to explain that there wasn't a distraction. She was doing exactly what she's supposed to be doing, and that was skiing.
Well, Terry, Paltrow's team's arguing that Sanderson's overall health wasn't very good before the accident and continued to decline because of normal aging. You think that's a good argument to go with?
Oh, I think it's a great argument. I believe that all of his medical issues before could have contributed to the accident. Frankly, the fact that he had a bad knee, he had poor vision, he had heart palpitations, he was on medication, and all of that could have made him run into Gwyneth Paltrow. And the other issue is he got angry even before the accident. So some of his personality changes, honestly, weren't changes at all. And the other issue that I think Paltrow's team is trying to assert here is, look, you've got some declining brain function, but you're an older person, and that's what happens. I have empathy for you, but I did not cause it. I think that's a very important point and a great argument.
Yeah, because it's not enough that the collision would have caused the injuries. It's that only if he was hit could this have happened, and that's the key there. So, that's the leap that the jury ultimately has to take. Now, coming up on Law and Crime Daily, we hear from the plaintiff in the case who brought the lawsuit against Gwyneth Paltrow, what Terry Sanderson had to say when he got on the stand Monday, 7 years after the incident that transformed his life. Welcome back, everybody. So we're continuing to cover Gwyneth Paltrow and Terry Sanderson's skiing collision lawsuit. And on Monday, the plaintiff testified. Sanderson's testimony comes after his daughters and Paltrow took the stand. His children described his apparent shift in personality and lifestyle after the collision, going from a happy-go-lucky guy to a slower, more isolated version of himself. Now, Paltrow insisted on the stand that Sanderson was responsible for the incident and even thought someone was, quote, doing something perverted based on how both parties landed on the slope. On the stand, Sanderson rebutted Paltrow's claims while also being challenged by her defense team.
I just remember everything was great, and then I heard something I've never heard at a ski resort, and that was a blood-curdling scream. Just, I can't do it. It was, ah, and then, boom. And it was like somebody was out of control and gonna hit a tree and was gonna die. And that's what I had until I was hit.
That's what was going on in your mind.
Overruled?
That's what's going on in your mind when you hear that scream.
That was instantaneous. Oh my gosh, somebody's out of control.
Carlene, we heard her testify last week. She's a catch. Why'd you let her go?
In my choice, I wouldn't have, but I had to, after 8 months, I had to tell her to leave. I said, I'm not asking her, I'm telling you, you gotta leave. And
Why'd you tell her to leave?
I knew she didn't buy into this. She didn't buy in to me not being the same person and coming into a relationship. And I said, I'm not sure I'm going to get back to normal again.
I wrote, I'm famous because it's cool that I had a collision with a celebrity. Was that your thinking at the time? And you said yes. Do you deny it?
Not if you have it on record, no. I don't deny it. I don't remember it. May I ask when this happened?
Sure. Like 1 hour ago, 2 hours ago, you told this jury, I've never thought it was cool that I had a collision with a celebrity. Do you recall that?
Yes, I guess I did say that, absolutely.
And that's not a true statement, is it?
Honestly, I don't ever remember saying it.
Bring it up whenever you can.
I don't doubt you. I misspeak a lot.
Terry, Sanderson said that Carlene didn't buy into him being a different person. What do you think he meant by that?
Actually, Jesse, I think that was a slip of the tongue. He said buy into, as though he's trying to fake it and trying to be a different person. If he had really meant, look, she can't accept me because now I have all these injuries and I'm not the same person, he would have said it that way, but he said buy into. And the way I read that is he's putting up this whole scam here that he is now a different person. Some other people have bought into it. His daughters have bought into it. Other people might believe him. His friends, one who testified for him, but Carlene didn't buy into it, so he had to tell her to leave. And I think that's important. I don't know if the jury picked up on that. I think Owen, the attorney for Paltrow, picked up on it, and he asked about it in the cross. I thought that was a very good point to make.
Brian, never good to say I misspeak on cross-examination. I'm going to ask you the same question I asked about Paltrow. You think he's credible?
So it's a little bit different for me here because I think that Owens, Paltrow's attorneys, held Sanderson's feet to the fire a little bit closer, coming at him with inconsistencies from prior depositions. And again, he really wants to talk. And in that talking, he kind of let things slip. Terry pointed out one that was there. But also when he talked about, well, I didn't write that. That's another one of my personalities. My first thing came up in mind was, well, which personality is testifying now? And there was a lot of times where he's speaking, oh, when I got hit, it felt like I went flying. Well, didn't someone else testify on his behalf that he couldn't have left his feet, that it wasn't possible? So the inconsistencies that I saw from him, mainly because he spoke a little bit too much, and also the attorneys for Paltrow really pushed him on some of those inconsistencies. And now I'm thinking, maybe he's in it for the money and not because he actually got hurt?
Here's another way of looking at it. Maybe he really believes that happened, but his memory is so altered by the collision itself. I mean, that's another way of looking at it. At the end of the day, the jury's going to have to determine the credibility of both Paltrow and Sanderson. But that's not all, because when we come back, GoPro footage of Paltrow and Sanderson's skiing collision could pretty much clear things up once and for all, right? But is there actually video? We're exploring key testimony from the plaintiff's daughter next. Welcome back, everybody. So we're continuing to talk about all things Gwyneth Paltrow as she fights a lawsuit filed by retired optometrist Terry Sanderson and continues or countersues him herself. Now, one standout witness from last week was the plaintiff's daughter, Shay Sanderson Harris. Now, she broke down in tears during her testimony as she described her father's condition before and after the skiing collision. Harris even said that Sanderson's relationship with his granddaughter was strained due to the experience, but one key piece of evidence brought in during her testimony was an email discussing a possible GoPro video of the collision, a video that the court hasn't seen yet. Let's hear what she had to say about that video on the stand.
Will you go ahead and read what your note says here for the jury?
Dad, I cannot believe how unlucky and how crazy this all is. I also can't believe this is all on GoPro. What are the chances? I am so glad you're okay. How are you feeling this evening? Love, Shay.
You mentioned you had a phone call with your father.
Yes.
How did that instruct or have influence on this response?
Okay. After my dad told me about what he was feeling and that he could hardly think, he said there has to be GoPro footage. There just has to be, because there was this big blood-curdling scream before I got hit in the back, and that means that a person that had a helmet cam of this GoPro would look towards the scream and catch it all on video. And so I thought, that's brilliant. You know, then we have complete evidence of what happened and who was at fault.
But you had never, he didn't show you a GoPro video?
No, I've never seen GoPro video, and it does not exist as far as I know.
So Terry, if I'm understanding this right, Sanderson refused help from the ski patrol, but then shortly after the accident, he discusses who's at fault with his daughter. What do you make of that?
I think it's very interesting, and especially their discussion about the GoPro video. Look, it could very well be that he wasn't hurt at all, and that he caused the accident himself, and that he thought maybe there was video out there, but they had a discussion about it. There's something very strange about the phone call they had and then the email text afterwards. So I'm thinking, and maybe someone on the jury is thinking, that they're making up this after the accident, that he said he's okay, he's really all right, but then they figure out it's Gwyneth Paltrow, maybe there's some money there. I mean, it could be a cynical viewpoint, but there are just so many inconsistencies, and this GoPro is also an inconsistency. Brian was talking about that earlier, and I'm a little bit confused. Why are you even talking about this? So I think someone on that jury could think that he's making this all up.
Well, Brian, if you believe the Sandersons that there's no GoPro, you think the email and the explanation is going to hurt Terry's case?
Yeah, that's a big if, Jesse, and I do think it's going to hurt. Let me explain this way. Over the hundreds of cases that I've done in New York City, when someone's accused of a homicide, a rape, an assault, whatever it is, and we think, hey, there's a bodega at the corner, there might be video, there's a night shift building here, there might be video. At no point in time does anyone affirmatively say there's a video when we are thinking and trying to explore if there is. That is not how the English language works. And her explanation of that was garbage in the best of ways. I think that is a daughter doing exactly as she should be doing, protecting her father. But that made zero sense to me, and I think that's going to hurt them in front of the jury.
She should be telling the truth. Let's talk about that. Terry, Brian, thank you both so much. Everyone out there, thanks for joining us here on Law and Crime Daily. We're going to see you next time as we discuss justice in America.